Welcome to Over 50 and Flourishing. Are you flourishing? I most certainly hope you are. I hope you're having a great week. Today is October 30th, the day that this podcast is being released. As you know, October is World Menopause Month, and we have really been focusing a lot of effort and energy in talking about the menopause story. I hope you've enjoyed the different conversations that we've had here on this platform, women from all different spectrums and walks of life sharing the menopause journey. And, I figured today, doesn't it make sense to start where it all began? That would be perimenopause. Now, here's the interesting thing, and I'm grateful for this. I have heard from many of you. I've got a lot of younger women who are in their 30s and 40s who are watching and listening to this platform because they want to get a leg up on what's to come. So, how important is it to have that conversation about perimenopause? Because it can oftentimes kick in as early as mid 30s. And a lot of women are incredibly confused by what it is that they're feeling and experiencing. And so, my guest today is going to focus on perimenopause. And, ladies, if you've already been through menopause, may I please encourage you to share this podcast with anybody that you know. It could be a daughter, it could be a niece, it could be a cousin, anybody, a younger woman, to catch her in this journey in life, because I don't want any woman to suffer in the way that I did. I felt like I suffered way too long in my perimenopause. And in fact, my guest today and I will share at the end of the podcast our perimenopausal experiences and journeys and be very vulnerable in that way as well. But let's welcome today's guest. As my wellness journey continues to evolve, I have learned the importance of being mindful about the supplements that I use. Not all supplements are created equally, and many are loaded with harsh chemicals and unwanted contaminants. That's why I trust Puri completely. I've been taking Puri's omega-3 supplements for months now, and they're fantastic. No fishy burps or unpleasant smells that often come with omega-3 supplements. Puri's omega-3 checks all the boxes: high quality ingredients, an effective dosage, and it's environmentally sustainable. It's an essential part of my daily wellness routine. See and feel the difference with Puri. I know you're going to love their supplements as much as I do. Puri is offering my listeners an amazing deal, 20% off site-wide. Just go to my special URL, puri.com/over50, and use promo code over50. This even applies to already discounted subscriptions. You'll get almost a third off the price. Go to puri.com/over50. Don't miss out. Use my promo code over50 at puri.com/over50. You deserve the very best. Hi, Laura. I am so glad that you're with me today. What an honor to talk to somebody who is in, I would say, kind of a new space. There's been all this talk about menopause lately. Menopause finally has its platform, and there's so much dialogue and discussion. But before we get to menopause, we're in perimenopause. And that's something that has been so under discussed. And I'm grateful that you have created a platform to be able to do that. And we're going to talk about that. I really want to share with my audience. I have a lot of women who are in their late 30s, early 40s who follow me because they're like, hey, I want to get in on the game here. I want to be armed with information and have knowledge so that I'm approaching my menopause from an informed place. So before we talk about peri and how all of that came to be, I always ask all my guests, Laura, how do you plan on flourishing this week?
I love that. Well, hi, Dominique. I am so happy to be here with you. I'm so looking forward to this conversation. There's so much to talk about perimenopause and menopause. So I'm Laura. How do I plan to flourish this week? This is such a great question. I'm normally based out of Amsterdam. I am in New York this week, and there are a bunch of menopause panels and events because it's Menopause Awareness Month, October. Right. And there's just so many amazing, inspirational women at these talks, spreading so much awareness and education. And I'm really flourishing through that, just seeing this conversation happening and being part of this movement, really.
Yeah, it really is an incredible movement. And there have been so many dialogues that have taken place. In fact, I saw you co-host an event that took place in New York with my dear friend Tamsin Fidel. She was part of your panel. And
Yes,
it was such a
yes.
wonderful, informed discussion of from women of all walks of life, all sectors. And it really flushes out some interesting conversation, doesn't it?
Absolutely. And I'm so happy that you mentioned Tamsin because she is really, I would say, one of the biggest advocates in this space. She comes just like you from journalism and from media and TV. And she's really educating and being very vocal about how menopause has been, when she experienced it, it has been like whispered in her work. She did not want to come out of the closet on
Yes.
menopause. She didn't want to talk with her colleagues about it. And now she's really shouting it from the roofs. She is, spreading it, so much awareness and knowledge, and for others, the confidence to really talk about it. So I think she's such an incredible voice in this space.
Yes, I agree. And she's on the podcast as well. So it's just wonderful to be surrounded by so many bright, like-minded women who have
Yeah.
been willing to step outside of the box, so to speak, and really put the word out there about what's going on with our bodies and all of the changes. And so that really leads me to ask you, how did Perry start? And by the way, you spell Perry, not P-E-R-I, but P-E-R-R-Y.
Yes, absolutely. I wanted to make it a little bit abstract. I wanted to be a little bit playful with the name.
Yep.
Of course, it's all about perimenopause, but I just wanted to play a little bit with the name and make it more of a friend, of a nickname versus the very kind of medical description of it. And yeah, and you were already mentioning your community and late 30s, early 40s.
Yep.
I'm in my late 30s myself. I have two small kids,
Mhm.
and I just I'm a millennial, right? And I find it so interesting that my generation is so used to digital solutions, communities for many topics which used to be taboo topics in the past.
Mhm.
So when it comes to period, when it comes to fertility or infertility, pregnancy, now even postpartum depression, there are
Yeah.
more and more conversations and online communities. But then when it comes to the next stage,
Mhm.
there's still very little. And we're
Again,
being prepared.
yes.
There's a gap, and we're being prepared very little. So when I had my first baby, I started taking pregnancy supplements 2 years before my pregnancy, right? I was
Mhm.
starting to read books 2 years before. I was joining online communities like what to expect when you're expecting a half year before, just to inform myself.
Mhm.
And now I'm entering that next phase, and I just hope, and that's my vision for Perry. And Perry is a community app. We have around 16,000 users in our space. But my
Right.
vision is really, of course, to be the place for women who are already experiencing perimenopause, but also for everybody 35 plus who will come into that transition very soon and just, starting to prepare herself for that transition.
And Laura, were you starting to experience your own perimenopausal symptoms? Was that kind of the impetus, or was it just more that information gap? Because you're one of those people who seeks information before she enters a certain phase in her life. So maybe was it a combination of the two?
It was a combination. So my mother had a very rough menopause transition. So that already kind of, gave or put perimenopause, menopause on top of my mind. But I'm one of these typical cases where I couldn't differentiate anymore from postpartum and perimenopause.
Mhm. Yeah.
So I have all these, all these. All of a sudden, I was sweating at night. My periods started to become irregular. So there are things where I'm as well were left in the dark of what is this? Is this postpartum or perimenopause? And there are so many more stories like that where this becomes a very blurry line because
Yes.
many of us have children later as well in our lives. And it becomes a very blurry of, am I still in kind of rebuilding my body after pregnancy, or is this already part of a different stage?
Correct. And a lot of us are having children older. I was 38 when I had my son. So you're right, those lines can blur very easily between postpartum and the start of perimenopause. And for a lot of women, perimenopause can actually kick in, like you said, in your mid 30s. And so it completely catches you off guard because you think this is a midlife experience and you don't think of your mid to late 30s as being midlife, do you?
I think this is one of the biggest misconceptions, Dominique, is really
Yes.
the age in which perimenopause can start. And we hear that in our community daily, that women are 38, 37, 39, and they're coming to this space saying, hey, I'm having all these symptoms. My period is regular. I'm much more anxious. I have night sweats. I'm moody. I'm in rage. I go to my doctor and he or she says, no, you're too young. You cannot have perimenopause. And this misconception is really hurting women because it's so confusing. I think in our mind, in our culture, we associate menopause with something which is happening in your when you're 70, right? It's like something
Yeah.
like this old lady
Kicking the
image.
can down the road type
and
thing.
and there's so much education to be done that perimenopause and that change can start so much earlier. And it also doesn't mean that, you cannot get pregnant anymore. It can be just such a blurry line for many.
Yes, I love your app. I've been perusing it and checking out all the different things that you offer. And I want to talk to you about how you chose to build the app, what type of content you wanted on there. I listened to some wonderful interviews that you've had with experts in the field of medicine, in the field of wellness, in the field of health. I mean, all multi-pronged approach to treating and understanding perimenopause. It's like we were talking about before we started recording this podcast, the connection between vaginal estrogen and UTIs, and how vaginal estrogen
Yep.
can be a great help in prevention of UTIs. It was a wonderful interview on your app that I saw. So go ahead and walk us through what your app offers to women who are going through perimenopause.
Yes, absolutely. I think that there are some transitions in our lives where we do need community. We always say being a mother takes a village. I think that there are many more stages in our lives which take a village. Dominique, you and I were once talking about grief. I think grief takes a village. And
Yes.
I do think that a transition like perimenopause takes a village because perimenopause can be so confusing for many. We have this anecdote in our community of a woman saying to her, it feels like entering into a room which was once very known to her, and now the room is pitch dark and she doesn't know where the light switch is.
Mm-hmm.
So, what we really want to focus with Perry in our app is making sense out of this dark room. And the core kind of soul of the app is community, really peer to peer support and validation. We have different spaces where community members can exchange. We have a sisters chat, we call it. That's really the main chat because we call our app the Perry Sisterhood. And then we have different subgroups. We have groups for anxiety, health anxiety, for a group where you can just ask questions, is this normal? And you can really talk with peers just about the experiences you have. So we have over 100,000 conversations, and many of them are, around, is my health anxiety normal? Is my itchy skin normal? And just finding others who are reacting to it, saying, yes, same for me, I'm experiencing the same. And that already creates so much relief and so much kind of, acceptance of that you're not going crazy, because
Yeah.
that's for many kind of, that going in there thinking they're going crazy because they're experiencing all of that. So the core of the app is really community and peer-to-peer support. We have true friendships, which came out of the app, women meeting in real life outside of the app. So really, many of us don't have maybe a sister or even a best friend or even a mother to talk to because this topic can be taboo or just uncomfortable. So this is almost replacing your offline village in an online format and finding new sisters who are going through the same.
Yes.
So the community is, very much at the core, and then we frame it. You were mentioning our conversations. We frame it with a lot of evidence-based content, articles written by experts. We have webinars, our Perry Talks. We have a podcast where we invite all these leading voices in the space into the app to just, educate and spread awareness.
I love it. I love how you are a safety net and you are catching women early who would have fallen through the cracks. And I'm so grateful that you have created what you have. We're going to talk more about it. Laura Okafor Crain is my guest today on Over 50 and Flourishing. And we are talking about perimenopause and just the incredible support group that she has created. We're going to thank our sponsors right now, and we'll be back right after this. As my wellness journey continues to evolve, I have learned the importance of being mindful about the supplements that I use. Not all supplements are created equally, and many are loaded with harsh chemicals and unwanted contaminants. That's why I trust Puri completely. I've been taking Puri's omega-3 supplements for months now, and they're fantastic. No fishy burps or unpleasant smells that often come with omega-3 supplements. Puri's omega-3 checks all the boxes: high quality ingredients, an effective dosage, and it's environmentally sustainable. It's an essential part of my daily wellness routine. Puri, which stands for Pure Origin, is committed to offering pure, clean, and superior products. They are fully transparent with their product testing, and every batch undergoes third-party testing against more than 200 contaminants. They are certified clean by the Clean Label Project. That's a level of scrutiny that not all brands can claim. Plus, there's a QR code on every product for you to review the full test results. See and feel the difference with Puri. I know you're going to love their supplements as much as I do. Puri is offering my listeners an amazing deal, 20% off site-wide. Just go to my special URL, puri.com/over50, and use promo code over50. This even applies to already discounted subscriptions. You'll get almost a third off the price. Go to puri.com/over50. Don't miss out. Use my promo code over50 at puri.com/over50. You deserve the very best. Welcome back to today's episode of Over 50 and Flourishing. Today, our focus is under 50 because we want women who are going through perimenopause to be able to flourish as well. This is October, World Menopause Month. The focus is on menopause, but perimenopause is what precedes it. And oftentimes, as we were talking, Laura, you and I earlier, the symptoms of perimenopause can often be misunderstood or misdiagnosed as depression, thyroid issues, potentially a host of other things where it's really tied into the start of hormone deficiency. And so we were talking about the app that you created, Perry, Perry, and it's a wonderful support app for women who are maybe thinking, am I going through this? And what I loved as I perused the app and I was looking in that chat and the comment area, women were very, very vulnerable, and they were asking intimate questions of, I feel this, or I'm seeing this change in my skin, or I'm seeing this change here, anybody else. And there is such comfort in community and not feeling alone.
Absolutely, absolutely. And Dominique, we originally started the Perry and the conversations on social media. We had an Instagram account and a Facebook group, and we saw how intimate the conversations are, just like you're saying, really intimate questions about your body, your sex life, your partnerships, everything. And we just decided we want to take this off social media because, we're still on Instagram, but just, you don't want to have these conversations where you see your uncle posting fishing pictures. So we really want to create that safe space within Perry. Exactly. Nothing against uncles, but just to have that safe space.
Is what you're saying.
There's a place for everything, and just just having this very intimate conversation. And we really want to grant the safe space with Perry of having these questions about your vagina, about your sex life, about your mental health, emotional health. Emotional health is really, for the majority of our community, the key impact on their lives. We always talk about hot flashes and night sweats and weight gain. And yes, of course, those are symptoms which are bothersome and you don't feel well in your own skin anymore. But the emotional piece, the anxiety, the depression, the rage, the grieving of your old self, those are really the ones where women are seeking support and saying, hey, I don't feel like myself anymore, anyone else.
Yeah, Laura, those symptoms are for real. And then what compounds all of that is lack of sleep. which starts to happen during perimenopause. So now, it's like, what are you putting the cart before the horse? But what comes first? Is the lack of sleep causing all of those things, or all of those things happening in tandem? And then the lack of sleep makes it worse. But it's like this big stew, and all of these ingredients are coming together all at once, and you can't quite identify what it is that's in the pot, right? Everything is jumbled and mixed up.
Absolutely. We launched a book, the Perimenopause Journal, and one of the section in the book is sleep. And often, we just see sleep as something like, oh, I couldn't sleep last night and I'm a little bit tired. But we forget what sleep has an impact on really our mood, on our anxiety, on our brain to work. So
Yes.
brain fog is a very common symptom in perimenopause, that you have words which are like at the tip of your tongue. You cannot remember words anymore. You cannot remember names. You forget half sentence what you were talking about. And their sleep plays also a significant role. So it's so, unfair that many women are really facing insomnia, not being able to fall asleep or falling asleep and then waking up again after 3 hours. So sleep is
Yes.
really, to say it, loosely, messing with a lot of women throughout this period.
One of the conversations I really enjoyed, and this was when you were co-hosting that symposium, you were talking, and a lot of the women were speaking to going through perimenopause and menopause in the workforce, and how
Mhm.
disconcerting it can be, because you are expected to perform at a certain level. You have up to a certain point, and now all of a sudden you feel like you're losing your faculties, you're losing your sharpness, and you're worried that you're going to be judged for it, demoted for it, that something could happen to your career because of the fact that you're going through perimenopause and menopause. And I remember, Laura, as a news anchor, for me, breaking news stories, you're just having to talk and string together stories. And just like you said, the words would be at the tip of my tongue, and I couldn't get them out. And I found myself struggling at times to say what I had been able to say for many, many, many years. And so let's talk about even conversations about safeguards in the workplace, and the need for even these types of conversations to happen so that women are protected in the workplace.
Absolutely. And we just mentioned Tamsin before, Tamsin Fadal, and she, just like you, comes from the media and journalism world. And she's now also a big advocate of really, talking about menopause and that you're experiencing perimenopause in the workplace, because it really just starts with a conversation. And we as Perry, we have gone into organizations like Amazon, for example, to just train the workforce on what is perimenopause, what could your colleague be experiencing, what should we be mindful of. That's very much the beginning. There needs to happen so much more in policies, and maybe
Yes.
menopause days off or whatever. I'm just kind of brainstorming, but I think the real beginning, what needs to happen in organizations, is to create awareness of what perimenopause and menopause is, and to remove the stigma that, similar like you go to your boss saying I'm pregnant, that you can go to your boss saying, I'm experiencing perimenopause, and that's why I might be sometimes forgetting words. That's because I might be sleeping a little bit less, and I would love to have flexible work hours. And that will give her or him just, the abilities to understand what you're going through. But right now, especially in more male dominated workplaces, it remains a taboo, and it disqualifies you almost as an employee, because you just don't feel as sharp as you used to be. And we have so many quotes from our community as well, where women are saying, I felt like crying today at work. My manager insists we're using Zoom. I would love not to be using Zoom because I don't feel so well right now. So it's really, going through so many emotions, especially in the perimenopause phase, that don't always allow you to be your old self at work.
Yeah. Think about this, the amount of fear that can play in a woman's mind. We talk about going through pregnancy, which isn't easy, and then, your maternity leave, right? And then, possibly postpartum depression. So you have this gap from work, and then you're trying to get back in, but, are you getting back in fully? Are you, experiencing the feelings of guilt of being away from your child. I mean, you know this as a mother. I know this. I went through it myself. And now all of a sudden you're moving into this next phase of, I'm starting to lose my faculties. I mean, I think women have so many concerns about all of their life transitions and how this can how it can potentially impact them and their ability to
Yep.
succeed in a corporate world. And
Yep.
it concerns me that I think a lot of women would just hold back and not talk about it because they don't want to be the problem.
Exactly. Exactly. And it's very interesting because we have been talking in our app as well about in the UK, they're a little bit more advanced and they actually
Mhm.
have, menopause leave in some companies. I saw discussions in our app, and some community members are even saying, I don't want to have menopause leave because I don't want to be stigmatized. I don't want to be marginalized with my experience. So it's really, like you're saying, it is still that stigma of, not wanting to be that odd one who's going through, because pregnancy is, like you're saying, it's also not easy, but it's still a more pleasant conversation because our society is more romanticizing fertility
Yes.
and pregnancy. And then when it comes to menopause, you just don't want to be the one who's causing the issue, like you're saying. So it's really, I would be a huge advocate for something like a menopause leave or policies, but I think there work needs to happen also on the employee side to make her feel comfortable to actually take this opportunity.
Yeah. For those women who are listening who are on the younger side, can you sort of walk us through? And I know there are so many perimenopausal symptoms, and they can often cross over and be associated with something else. But maybe just as a guide, walk women through what they can expect during perimenopause. It may not happen to them, but it could.
Yeah, absolutely. The hallmark symptom of perimenopause are changes to your period. That is the number one and first symptom. And that can present itself either with, periods becoming heavier or shorter, or, kind of shortened cycle, or more distance in between periods. So that is the first sign that your hormones are changing. And that's really the interplay of estrogen and progesterone, which are, in charge of that. So change in periods, every doctor says that is the number one sign and symptom of perimenopause. Interesting enough, the kind of next symptoms are mostly emotional. It's
Mhm.
often heightened anxiety, it's heightened rage, heightened irritability, just not feeling like yourself, kind of feeling out of your skin. Many women in our community call it like PMS on steroids. So
Yep.
if you know how PMS feels, kind of that times 10. So just,
Yeah.
that anguish before your period starts.
Yeah. It's like you want to claw
That's how
yourself
many
out of your own body, is what it feels
that
like.
you want to crawl out of your own body. And that's how
Yes.
many women say that's how they realize something is changing. And that's how perimenopause started for them, like this unexplained rage and just irritability. And then there are, the classic ones, which, we hear a lot about, which are really hot flashes, night sweats, that your joints hurt, that you cannot sleep as well, that you start experiencing vaginal dryness or pain with sex. Many women talk about the loss of libido, which, can have different factors. It can, of course, be that because sex hurts, that you feel less like sex, or that you have been with your partner already many, many years, which can,
Mhm.
also influence that situation. So, but these are the symptoms which, most of our community members and in general are reporting how perimenopause started for them. Always starting with the irregular periods first.
Yes, that generally is the hallmark. And you're right, they do progress in not only number, but intensity as well. And it's usually when it gets to that point where a woman finally starts speaking out and possibly seeking help from a doctor, which then sort of leads to the
Yes.
next stage in all of this. Because as you know, one size doesn't fit all here. The biggest frustration that women have had, Laura, is that they have felt like they have not been heard by the medical community. And there is finally some change that's taking place here, and some doctors who were in the more traditional space who have moved over now into the menopause space because they realize, one day of training in medical school for menopause is not sufficient enough to care for a population that's going to go through this. The entire
Yeah,
female population will go through this. So,
exactly.
let's talk about now seeking treatment and being your own best advocate here.
Yeah, absolutely. I just learned this week that there are only 1,000 certified menopause specialists in the US. So it's still extremely difficult. And we also hear that anecdotally, it's extremely difficult to find a practitioner who is a specialist and very much trained in the field. And I think what many women do, and I would do the same, is you go back to your OBGYN who might have helped you with pregnancies, and you trust that person and you trust his or her advice. But that doctor might not be as good, as well trained in the menopause space. And that's how many women are dismissed with their symptoms. Like we were saying before, you're either too young or, it cannot be perimenopause yet. And what we hear as well a lot, even if the doctor acknowledges that this can be perimenopause, there's just because of a study on hormone replacement therapy, which had been done many, many years ago, which scared away many doctors to recommend hormone replacement therapy, that there's just a general reluctance among the medical field to suggest and help women with hormone treatment and hormone replacement. So that is a whole new different conversation on how women are seeking solutions. And it's for some very, very hard to find doctors who are listening to them and then are also open to, prescribing medication, which can help many women in the space. It's not something for everyone, but many can really, benefit from the results of it.
Right. I mean, I know there's a website like menopause.org where you can put in your
Yes.
location and it can try to locate a menopause practitioner near you. Does Perry try to assist in that way, or is it just more of a conversation and let's identify it so now you know what it is, you can go out and actively seek the kind of care that you need?
Yeah, we're doing two things. Also, part of our book, the journal, is kind of a preparation on how to, prepare yourself for and how to be, like you were saying, your own best advocate for the conversation with your doctor. What questions to prepare, for which tests to ask, for how to journal your symptoms, because perimenopause is often really diagnosed through you telling the symptoms. Your blood work can look completely normal, but if you're listing your symptoms, then your practitioner might be, understanding that you're in perimenopause. So it's very important to journal your symptoms and to be really educated about what you're experiencing in your own body. And then to your question on the kind of directory of doctors, we just started it. We're just, asking our community who had had a good experience with a doctor, preferably NAM certified, so North American Menopause Society certified. And we are pulling together all these experiences like in an interactive map. So other community members can, if they're in the same state or in the same vicinity, visit that doctor too, because finding a good doctor can be very difficult.
Yes, very difficult, especially like you said with that statistic that only 1,000 are certified menopause care specialists. So I'm grateful to hear that you're doing that and you're helping women find care and at least potential care or at least a roadmap of where to start and where to go. Such a wonderful dialogue. My guest today is Laura Okafor Crain. She founded the Perry app and the Perry community. And it really is a community. I know you've got, I think, a newsletter and many things, the book that you talked about, and we'll dive into the book a little bit more, but it's such a joyful conversation. How wonderful to hit women before they get into menopause to really, really, and here's the key. Intervention early on can totally set the course and change the course for what kind of a menopause experience you will have. So I'm grateful for that. We're going to take a quick break, say thanks to our sponsors, and we'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. Hope you're enjoying the conversation that I'm having with Laura Okafor Crain, who is the founder of Perry. She's nipping perimenopause in the bud, getting to the heart of the matter early on and talking about what women can potentially experience starting in their mid 30s and not even know what's going on. So she's got this wonderful app called Perry, Perry. And we've been talking about what you can find on the app, all the resources available. I downloaded it and I watched a couple of your interviews with your experts. You ask great questions. You have found some wonderful thought leaders in the space to be able to talk about a wide array of issues for women who are going through perimenopause and someone who's been through menopause. I've thoroughly enjoyed these conversations. So you were holding up a book just a little while ago, and the Perimenopause Journal. Walk us through this book and what you're encouraging women to do at this stage in life.
Yeah, absolutely. The idea of the book actually originated from our Perry community, because anxiety and just, kind of changing and raging thoughts can be, a big part of the perimenopause journey. And community members were saying sometimes perimenopause can feel like a downward spiral where there's a lot of negativity, and how a journal which would help you practice gratitude and just track your symptoms and your mood would help, and actually sitting somewhere with pen and paper 5 minutes a day and just getting your own time and almost practicing self-care. So we thought, okay, this is a great idea to just create a journal specifically for the perimenopause journey. So we started with 100-day gratitude journaling. It's full of quotes around perimenopause, inspirational quotes from the community, a lot of jokes as well from the community, because I always think there is positivity and humor,
Yep, gotta
and
have
just a
it.
chance to just a chance to practice gratitude, to track your symptoms, to
Yeah.
check if you had your period or not, and just to keep track of what's going on. But then we thought, we have that journal, but wouldn't it be so great to pair that journal with just the perimenopause basics, the essential knowledge, almost like your perimenopause handbook. So we partnered with these incredible experts and thought leaders in the space to create this perimenopause handbook. So the perimenopause journal is half of it is really essential knowledge. What are the treatment options? What are the symptoms? What about mental health? What about ADHD? What are fitness options? How to manage your weight? How to eat healthy? How to, just get the right nutritious food? What about painful sex? What about your hair? What about your skin? So we have all these different chapters with these amazing voices, in the field. We have Dr. Sharon Malone, we have Dr. Kelly Casperson, Amanda Thiep, and just amazing voices which are all out there to educate. And we also have these different stories from our sisterhood. We have Tamsin Fadell, who's sharing her story. We have Stacey London, who's sharing her story. So we really want to give comfort with the book of, this is the knowledge. These are others who are experiencing exactly the same like you are experiencing. And here's the part where you can just write down your thoughts and journal. So it has become this kind of, handbook for everything we think, which can be helpful throughout the perimenopause transition.
Well, yeah. I mean, when you throw in brain fog, you're most likely to forget everything anyway. So the aspect of journaling is so critical in remembering specific detail about how you're feeling
Absolutely.
or what you forgot or what you're experiencing. Because, oh my gosh, I felt like I went years and I don't remember what happened. I just drove to work and I came home and
Absolutely.
stuff got filled in between. That's all I know. But I love that. And I love how all encompassing your approach is. And you are so right. It's not just about, yes, you need to document and journal what it is that you're going through, but the approach is a holistic wellness. We need to understand that there are things that we can do naturally to help us through this process. And then there are things that we need to seek if we cannot remedy it naturally. And everybody's perimenopause and everybody's menopause looks different. I mean, I had a tough time. I know some women who sailed through it like it was a breeze. So, I think empowering, like you said, women with knowledge that nutrition can make a big difference, exercise can make a big difference, a regular sleep schedule, all of these things that really are patterns that have to be put in place early, aren't they?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's really, like you're saying, it's really this total picture. And it's really, it's also so individual for anyone who's going through it. Stacey London is saying that at our symposium of that menopause is, there's no one size fits all. And I think that's really something we want to educate on. It's not that you're experiencing the same as I am and that the same treatments work for you or the same lifestyle interventions work for me. So it's really about finding your own toolkit of, tools that help you with the transition. And I think that is so important to equip women with, to say, hey, this is what all these different experts say, and now you need to get your best practices out of it.
Yeah. Give us a little sneak peek inside that symposium. I think, the one thing that's happening right now is that there's an incredible dialogue that's taking place. So first there has to be a discussion and awareness, which then creates a movement. And I think that is totally underway at this point, that women are demanding better care and better knowledge of their bodies. So what are your hopes and what are you seeing in the future?
Yeah, that's such a good question, because there are so many more conversations already, which is great. So, all these experts are taking the stage and really educating, and really, spreading the word and just being out there and shouting it from the roofs. And I think this is always the first step when it comes to equality and just, fighting for someone's rights. And it is somehow fighting for our rights, because we do want to have perimenopause and menopause acknowledged and, understood by everyone and by society. My hope for the future is that women feel equipped and that they can, that they feel that they are equipped to create their own toolbox. So I mean that in two ways. I do hope for Peri that in 5 years from now, two 32-year-olds are sitting having a coffee and they're talking about Peri and saying, hey, you should, look into Peri because this could come in the next 8 years. I really hope that there is some sort of preventive measures in our journeys as women to, prepare ourselves for perimenopause and equip ourselves before this all starts and catches us by surprise and overwhelms us.
Yeah.
And I do hope, and that's also something we are looking into in Peri, is how can we democratize these conversations? How can we democratize these panels? Because these panels are amazing, but how can we break it down for, women who are in all different types of income levels, areas, and just, equipping women, saying, hey, this is your toolkit. This is your list of questions you should ask to your doctor, who you can hopefully visit. These are, the books you should read, just to make it very actionable for women and less abstract, because I still feel that menopause right now is a little bit of an abstract conversation, and there can be more actionable tools handed out to women of how to navigate through it.
I love that. And I wholeheartedly agree. And, you mentioned two 32-year-old women sitting down and having an open conversation about perimenopause. So I think it'd be kind of cool if we closed out the interview with just our own open conversation about our perimenopausal journey and what you noticed. And I'll share what I noticed that really caught me by surprise. You want to go first?
Absolutely. I'm joining the rage and anxiety conversation. I think that I have, noticed over the last time that I am just, I have less tolerance for BS, if I can say that. I'm getting much
Yes.
faster triggered by things, and I just am definitely a different person than the Laura that I was before when it comes to mood, also anxiety, again, something which was a very blurry line for me in between postpartum and perimenopause, just having, much heightened anxiety, morning anxiety, health anxiety, being much more scared that something might be going on in your body. So those have definitely been the ones where I have seen the changes and kind of the signs for me. What about you?
Well, it's so funny knowing you and just your personality. I do not see you as a rager at all, which I find fascinating. So
You should
your
ask my
husband must be
husband.
getting a totally
Yeah.
different side of you than I am.
Ask my husband.
But I understand how that goes because different environments can trigger different
Oh,
things.
yes, for sure. For sure. There are many triggers.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. I would say similar. I was always a very happy-go-lucky, optimistic. I still am. But I found myself getting very irritable quickly, losing my cool, not having the composure, just being set off. And I thought, well, it's just a rite of passage. I'm getting older and I've earned the right to my opinion and my attitude type thing. But it was more than that. It was an emotionality, it was a feeling that was going on inside as opposed to just an opinion or a thought. So I was beginning to differentiate. This is a little bit more of a physiological change that's taking place in you. I noticed weight gain that was stubborn, no matter how healthy I was eating or working out and living. I've always lived a very clean lifestyle, and just feeling a little thicker, I guess. The biggest one for me was the irregular sleep, which really, really, I feel, Laura, just set me down that downward spiral because, I worked late nights and I wouldn't get home till 11:30. And by the time I fell asleep, it was 12:31. And I'd get up every 2 hours, feeling like it's time to start the day and then go to the bathroom and then try to go back to bed. And it was this vicious cycle and pattern that only exacerbated the other problems, which we talked about earlier. So,
Absolutely.
I think it's important that we share these things and we not hide and not pretend like everything is okay and great
Absolutely.
and glorious when it's not sometimes. And there is help. And it wasn't for me until I sought the right doctor and got put on HRT. And even that was a process to get that dialed in at the appropriate level at that time. And as you know, that changes through time as well. It's managed care. But I'm grateful that it's there, and I'm grateful that we're having these conversations, and women are getting vulnerable and real about it. And I want to let you share with everybody where everybody can find you and how they can download the Perry app and utilize your incredible resources.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you're saying that. And I just want to share that if one person, shares transparently of how she is feeling, that really opens gates for
Mhm.
others. And we see that on our app that, if one person openly talks about that she's not feeling well, then others feel much more comfortable saying, same here. And that's just so healing, to be like that and to interact like that versus always pretending everything is fine. Like you're saying, we don't have to power through all the time, although we're trained to do that. Yeah,
Yeah.
so I love talking with you, Dominique. Thank you so much for, inviting me to this wonderful conversation. We have a website which is called HeyPerry.com, like HeyPerry.com. Our app is on both stores, the Google Store and the Apple Store. It's called Perry, Perry, and Perimenopause Community. But I think if you're already putting in Perry, then you will find our app. It's for free.
So,
Exactly, it's for free. You just have to set up a profile and then you're in the conversation. We have a podcast which is called
great.
Perimenopause WTF, where we have also very great conversations. And I encourage everybody to
Yes,
just
you
have
do.
to listen to that.
Yeah. And people can order the menopause
Oh
journal
yes,
from your site as well, correct?
exactly. Our book is on the
Yes.
site or
Great.
on Amazon. The Perimenopause Journal, Perry again with Perry. Yeah.
Excellent. Laura, what a treat. We will make sure to link you in the description of this podcast. But
Thank you.
I can't thank you enough for your desire to do this and to target an underserved community that needs so desperately to be served. And I'm grateful for women like you who are filling in the blanks and really offering such valuable resources and, most importantly, just a space to talk.
Yeah.
So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Certainly hope you enjoyed our time with Laura today. I know I did. It's so wonderful seeing young women really grab an issue and take hold of something and bring it to light and start having these conversations. So I commend her and I commend all the women who are in this space and really, really making a difference, because menopause is a journey, and it is a journey for the rest of our lives. It is not something we get through. It is forever. And we want to live our best, most healthy life for the rest of our life. So I hope you've enjoyed the content for the month of October for World Menopause Month. So many other wonderful conversations to be had here on Over 50 and Flourishing. If you're watching on YouTube, always appreciate it if you leave a comment below. Let us know what you thought about the podcast. Give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to this channel. And of course, if you listen wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, whether it's Spotify, Apple, please just rate, review, subscribe, and share me to continue the conversation and to get content like this into the ears of more and more women who could truly benefit. I benefit by your presence, and I just want to thank you for joining me on today's Over 50 and Flourishing.